For many people, the paradox of the God represented in the Old Testament and in the New Testament is a major stumbling block. And one of the reasons this is such a difficulty is the assumption that the Bible is one book. But the very word Bible, coming from biblos in Greek, means the books, this compilation of different books from different times. And it is only the fundamentalism and ignorance on the American frontier of thinking of the Bible as this one equal parts magic book gives us this false impression. In fact, it is further convoluted because certain Protestant sects call themselves the people of the book, as though the book was the religion. And this comes from the Muslim world. It was Islam that said, look, we are the people of the book, the Quran, which is one book, and so are the Jews and the Christians. And they imposed this mindset that the book was everything, when in fact it is not. It never was in the legacy of Christianity. It's the Holy Spirit. It's the relationship to God. It's the transformation of our nature, which is the religion. It's the becoming merciful, compassionate people that matters. And when we study the Old Testament, what we find is very different shades of development from the earliest times, from the most primeval times, when people worshipped at the high places on a mountainside, when there was still infant sacrifice, when slitting the throat of animals was critical to their idea of what it meant to worship this deity. And further, we find an idea of God in development. At first, it is the God of the tribe. Yahweh is the God of the Hebrews, not of humanity. And there is this representation of the wrathful God, which is an anthropomorphism, a placing of human characteristics on the cosmic divine presence, which is completely absurd, which is only seeing from our vantage point what this could be, even though to Moses he says, I am the one who is, which is an extraordinary expression that somehow did not have its full impact until the appearance of Jesus. Monotheism develops in the Old Testament. Early on we find Yahweh pitted against other gods. And so we witness this evolution of intuition and of revelation of who this God is. So we cannot put it all together as one thing. Malachi was the last of the prophets of the Old Testament. At the end of that covenant, of that book of the Hebrews, and then 400 years of silence until John the Baptist appears. And with the emergence of Jesus comes the ultimate revelation of the nature of God for humanity. He calls him Abba, which in that culture was considered the first words that the baby speaks to the parent. The intimacy of connection with God, the unimaginable love of God and care for each individual, the universal reality of God. My friends in France speak of Jesus putting a face on God, of compassion and mercy, the God who reigns on the just and the unjust, the God represented in the figure of the father and the prodigal son, who, though the son has left him, gone away to a far country, wasted all that the father has given him, and finally out of the mud comes to himself and returns, what does he find? The father is waiting for him on the road. This is the God revealed by Jesus. Some of the holy fathers of the ancient tradition say that he was waiting on that road all along, long before the son came to himself and decided to return home. And this father runs to him. He doesn't wait to receive him, he hurries to him. This is the nature of the mystery of God made known to us through Christ. And yes, it is quite different than what we find in the Old Testament, because it is the ultimate evolution of humanity's capacity to understand who God is, made known by the Incarnation. So it is a terrible mistake to take it all together with no discernment, no recognition of what it means that Jesus came into the world with an entirely new way to understand God that cannot be mixed up with the Old Testament. The roots are there, but the light appears with Jesus. This is why he says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." But I say to you means this that I speak is different than what you have heard before. And what did they hear before? What was in the Old Testament. Certainly we can find beautiful words of devotion and relationship to God in the Psalms and in other places. But clearly, we can see that it isn't until Isaiah and Jeremiah that the idea of a universal God appears, rather than a tribal God. There's reason why some rejected the Old Testament as the book of the Christians at some points, because the revelation, the new covenant, was so different. Gathering it together gives us various pieces, but was never meant to be one unified whole. That is false at every level, theologically, spiritually, historically. We find what there is to be found in the Old Testament, and the Holy Fathers of early Christianity would find it through spiritual allegory, such as the escape from Egypt was seen also as the metaphor of each human being escaping the darkness of confinement and captivity, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, that we all need to come out of for the promised land of intimate relationship with God and purification and living right and freedom of the children of God, living at another level. So it is important to be clear that the illusion generated by the ignorance of certain Protestant sects, creating out of the complexity and variety and evolution of the biblical materials gathered together, reducing it all to one magic book with no differences, put blinders on people's eyes and convoluted it to such an extent that sometimes everything is rejected, instead of recognizing the journey of the human spirit to its ultimate point of the revelation of Christ. So begin not with the Old Testament, but with the New, with the Gospel of John, the spiritual gospel. realizing that something extraordinary, unseen before, is given to us in the appearance of Christ, which changes everything. And then return to the Old Testament to find the rich elements of a people who attempted to be devoted to what they understood to be God and who lived under these 680-some sacred laws of Moses, only to be brought to the complete liberation of the way of Christ, who gives us the God of love, the path of return to the heart of God, the consolation of the Holy Spirit, and the way, the truth, the light, the life, and the light for each individual seeking to return to the source of their being, to love the Creator who loved them first.